Born with a diamond spoon and a pampering family, who wouldn't love such a fate? Eve, the third daughter of the Gavrech family, was that very lucky child. Anything she wanted, she can have. At the age of 3, the mere stare at a stray animal she found cute moved her family to take that animal in with the utmost care so that it does not die. At the age of 6, her mindless comment of how she liked a certain royal knight in training, thinking that he might be perfect as a living punching bag whenever her family stresses her out, made her parents go above and beyond to hire the knight as her personal guard, who is now known as the highest paid knight in the entire kingdom. And her family is not even royalty. Thankfully, the child was not the kind who loves to speak. She rarely uttered a word unless she really had to. Although there is the fact that everything she needs is always provided to her without her having to say a word, she was also born in such a way, rarely cried, and didn't even speak until the age of 5. Because of this fact, the child was instead extremely observant of her surrounding. She loved to pay attention to the people in the house and decipher their standing based on the limited amount of knowledge she could understand at her age. Her parents were the second highest. The words they spoke were regarded by the household as if it was a fact. If they say the mineral industry will be ours, thus it will happen within a month. If they say the sweets from a certain shop are doomed, so it will also happen. Next were her eldest brother and sister, Rion and Vil. Whatever they want, they will have. That is, as long as their parents say yes. Most of the time, it's a yes, as their parents have always told the children this one sentence: there is nothing you cannot do or have, it is just a matter of effort. Which is not a bad teaching if added with other bits of wisdom. But this sentence alone can be misinterpreted by children who are still young in the mind. And so, Eve has witnessed how her brother and sister became like monsters with bottomless amounts of greed. Surprisingly, even the greedy monsters seem to still prioritize their youngest sibling. Eve's greed became the greed of not only her elder siblings, but also their parents and the servants in that house. If the eldest would still sometimes have to banter with their parents to get what they want, it was not the same case for Eve. This is actually because of her lack of desire for anything outside what has already been provided for her. The family thinks of her as an angel whose heart is so pure and selfless that they need to be the ones to help her enjoy the luxuries of life. But truthfully, watching the consequences of her greedy siblings and her powerful parents, she became careful and calculative with her actions. And so, Eve judged using her young mind that she has the highest standing within their household. "My lady, Hinan!" a servant yelled as he barged into Eve's room as if his life depended on it. Eve, who was enjoying the cup of tea in her hand, sighed as she put it down, as it seems like she is the only sweet little angel who can tame the greedy monsters once they are out of control. The servants would often run to Eve for help. If she was in the mood, she'd help, but if not, she wouldn't budge no matter how hard her servants beg. Thankfully, Eve was in the mood to help that day. What she was not in the mood of was exercising her legs. "Guide us," she said as she let her knight, Akka, carry her. They all rushed down the hall towards where the library was. "My sword, Seth! Are you deaf?" Eve's brother, Rion, seemed ready to twist off the head of the servant prostrating in front of him, using his bare hand if he had to. "Brother!" Eve called in a loud but still calm manner. "Eve, dear, not now. This stupid vermin just had to spill my drink all over my book. Do you know how difficult it was for me to get this?" Rion's rapid change of expression was amusing to witness as the contrast was immense. Eve sighed as all of the servants in the room stare at her in desperation. Rion is crazy over books. He treats them as dearly as one would treat a jewel. "Then don't drink in the library." "But Hinan is very precious to me." Eve's mind and mouth were uttering two entirely different things. She approached her brother, seeming as if she was about to cry, tugging Rion's sleeve weakly. "Besides, you don't want your precious book to be dirty with blood, right?" Rion wavered. Seeing his sister's face made him also want to cry, in anger since he still could not forgive the servant. "But my book..." he whispered while clenching his teeth as if trying to keep his anger from running loose. He didn't want his little sister to see the monster side of him. Although, it's too late for that, but the boy does not realize this since he tends to become forgetful when he's not sane. Didn't Mom talk about the new uprising mage who's been flying up the hierarchy? Wouldn't he be talented enough to fix your book? Eve suggested. Rian suddenly became calm as he considered his little sister's suggestion. I guess it's worth a shot, he blurted. Everyone sighed after hearing this, which Rian immediately noticed, glaring at them before laying his sight on the guilty servant. You, bring the mage to me. Your life depends on it. Yes, young master! The servant said as he bowed down to the ground, also bowing to Eve before rushing out for his mission. What if the mage can't fix it? Rian's friend, who had been quiet the entire time, finally spoke, making the servants tense up again. Eve clenched her teeth in annoyance, but tried to hide her emotion as much as possible. I'll have him search for another copy of this book and make him pay for it from his own wallet. I don't really want my sister to lose something precious like I did, Rian said as he looked at his sister lovingly, carrying her in his arm as he wiped Eve's lingering tears away. His friend observed the siblings for a short second. What if he can't find the book? He asked again with a smile on his face, glancing at Eve, who seemed to almost let her emotion seep out. Is that servant very precious to you? Rian asked. Extremely. He always gives me sweets and plays dress up with me whenever I ask him to. He also protects me from bugs that try to approach me. Only happened once. And I only really want to play dress up with him. Another lie. Eve tried to convince Rian. Rian seemed to be in deep thoughts as he took a seat and let Eve rest on his lap. Brother, Eve called, making her brother glance at her. If you give me a kiss, I'll forgive him. Eve hates giving kisses, and her family knows this. She immediately pouted at this idea. I guess I'll have to kill. Eve gave a kiss on Rian's cheek before he could finish his sentence. It was supposed to be a slight touch, but her sneaky brother pushed his cheek towards the girl so that it would stay a little bit longer. Ew, brother, that's unfair, Eve complained. Rian didn't care as he smiled proudly. I think it's a fair trade, he replied as he searched for a different book to read. Put that book somewhere safe. Be sure not to damage it any further, he added, shooting a threatening glance to the servants. This made those who were cleaning the mess glance at each other, hesitant to be the one to follow the young master's order. They feared that they would make a mistake because of their nervousness. Rian's personal servant, Seth, sighed as he requested a clean tray from the nearest servant and took care of the book himself. Seeing that she no longer needed to stay, Eve pulled herself away from her brother. You're not staying? Rian asked, grabbing Eve's arm strong enough so that she cannot pull herself away from him. It's time for me to walk, Eve replied, not bothered by the strength of her brother's grip. Rian did not let go for quite a while. Anyone could see that his desire to keep his sister by his side was about to win over. The young lady simply stared at her brother, waiting. Too bad, Rian said as he let go of his sister. He'd rather let his sister go than having her avoid him like a plague for years because of his selfishness. It has happened before, so it would be even more difficult to reconcile with his sister if it happens the second time. Eve patted her brother's head as a reward before she walked out with her servants. Keeping his eyes on Eve's back, Rian's friend finally spoke again. I need to use the bathroom. Sure, Rian replied without taking his eyes off of his book. The moment the library's door closed, all of the servants sighed relieved. Did you have to? Eve glared at Rian's friend, Yor, who just came out as well. What? I did you a favor. Who knows what he might do if that servant fails? Yor defended himself. Eve still kept her glare despite knowing that what Yor said was technically right. I doubt that's the reason you did that. She knows that Yor has a habit of bothering people he finds interesting, be it Eve's brother, or Eve, or even a random passerby. As a matter of fact, Yor was the reason the servant, Hinan, tripped and spilled Rian's drink all over his new book. He was curious if the new, innocent-looking servant would be sharp enough to notice his little act, since the other servants are experts at avoiding Yor's mischief. Which this particular one did not notice, which caused the terrible event that even Yor did not expect, since the servant wasn't even near Rion. It's just that the glass flew that far when Hinan fell. Truth be told, Eve hates Yor, because he's one of the reasons why her brother makes many inhuman decisions. But even though she had told her brother not to be friends with him, Yor always finds a way to force Eve's brother to hang out with him anyway. Rion himself does not care whether Yor is around him or not. It just means that he would have another punching bag to vent his anger whenever he wants to. The annoying bug, how Eve addresses Yor, is strong enough to withstand Rion's antics. "No, thank you," Yor asked with his usual evil smile. "As if you deserve one," Eve said in a lazy manner as she walked away.